everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night. Whenever it is that you're listening to this, welcome to the Orchids podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Orchids podcast. For those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Paola, and I just wanted to welcome all of you. And again, for those of you who this is the first time that this video is coming up on your page or whatever, this is the Orchids. This is a little, let's call it a big sister chat, where I kind of give you my little life advice from the few things that I've learned in my lifespan, and basically just things that I wish somebody would have told me, I guess, to help me out through this process of adulting, which is such a strange, interesting thing. And for those of you who are back, thank you, welcome. There was an episode last week because I was dealing with a lot. I was sick. There was a lot of things. I was just busy with like school and whatever. But I'm happy for you guys. And on that note, honestly, I was thinking about this, and this is something that I wanted to say, where I remember before there was a big pressure where if I stopped and I didn't make an episode for a week, it was like a big thing for me. And I felt so disappointed in myself. And then because of that, it kind of spiraled to where, okay, I didn't do it last week, so I'm not even going to bother doing it this week. And it would kind of just spiral. And I'm not just talking about the podcast. I think it would happen in a lot of different areas. And to that, my point of me telling you this is you are allowed to rest and take a break. It doesn't mean that because you didn't do something one time that it's because you don't care and because you suck and it like you're never going to get into the routine. Sometimes we just need to let things flow the way they need to flow. Sometimes things don't work out, even if it's like for a small minute. Sometimes we need to take a pause, and that's okay. And I had to tell myself that because I was like feeling bad, like, ugh, again, like I slipped up, like I didn't do the episode. Girl, it's okay. Not everything has to be so like strict all the time, because honestly that's not good for anybody. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your esteem and the way that we think about things and the way that we process things. It's okay to take a break. So on that note, I hope that you guys have been having a restful week, that you're not taking it too crazy strict with yourself, that you're taking a pause. And for this episode, I wanted to talk about something that I've talked about a lot. I talked about it in other seasons. And it's such a broad topic. I feel like you can go really in depth on so many different things. So this might be a series. This might be something that I keep doing. We'll see. But with the other episodes, the thing that kept coming to my mind is healing. And because I talked about it so much in other episodes, it has come up now where I think it's so important to talk about healing with the help of the Holy Spirit, or allowing Him to heal things in you, with or through the help of Jesus and the love of Jesus. Because this is such a big portion that I don't think a lot of people talk about, and that obviously I didn't even talk about fully in depth because I wasn't exactly sure how to go about it. And also I'm talking as a not, entirely healed person, but I have been through some things where I can say, okay, this is a lot more helpful than, what I've been told. When it comes to healing, I think there's a lot of different aspects and a lot of different ways that you can go about it. I think, obviously, we've said this before, where healing is a very much non-linear path. I think there are days when we are feeling a lot better. I think there's going to be days where we think that things are, all healed and all whole in our hearts, and then you wake up the next day and it's kind of all crumbled again. And I think that this is normal. Again, because it's nonlinear, we tend to go up on this little roller coaster. And until we have fully healed that, where we can say, okay, this is now a linear path, it's okay to feel that way sometimes, where it's okay to have those ups and downs and not have to be so hard on yourself about it. Also, I apologize. Clearly, I am still a little sick. So if you could please just deal with that with me just for the remainder of this episode. But I've said this before, and I am a big advocate for therapy. I think therapy is very helpful, especially as somebody who has gone through it. It is very helpful to be able to talk to somebody, especially if you're somebody who doesn't exactly know how to figure out exactly your feelings, or how to express what it is that's bothering you, or how to express your emotions, or how to talk about it. Therapy is very helpful because obviously you have to talk about it, but since it's with a professional, they can guide you in that way, and they can maybe give you certain prompts, or they can help you to discover, why is it that I can't talk about this, or why is it that it's difficult for me to understand my own feelings and things like that. And I think in that way it's very helpful, because also we can't always, or we don't always feel like we have the, I guess, the okay to talk to somebody in our own lives, or we don't always feel or trust the people that we have around, not because they're untrustworthy, just because of the things within us that we need to heal. And so again, talking to somebody who, not that they don't know you, but I think having somebody that is a neutral way in between, or completely unbiased, can be also very helpful. The thing I've found with therapy is that it gives you the why behind a lot of your problems. Again, for people who have been, can understand what I'm talking about, where the therapist will never tell you or give you direct advice and say, this is what I think that you should do. Okay, well, first, because they can't actually do that. But when you talk to them and you present them with your feelings or with a certain problem that you're facing, they don't give you the solution immediately. They tell you, okay, this is why you feel this way. And that can be really helpful to discover a lot of your inner feelings, and to be able to understand, okay, it's not that I completely suck, or it's not that I'm going crazy. It's not that I'm the odd one out and that I always have to feel different. It's that, okay, I act the way that I act because ABC. I act, or I feel this way because it triggers this, or, So it gives you a more, I guess, better understanding about yourself. And it gives you the why behind certain things. Now, the reason that I feel it is so important to have both, to have therapy and to have prayer and your time with God, is because I think therapy gives you the why, and then through God, you are able to get to the root of that problem, and He is able to heal that within you. And I'll give you an example. It could be anything. It could be, for example, you now understand that, let's say you have a certain reaction to things around you. You get very agitated by, I don't know, insert here, whatever it is. And your therapist tells you, okay, maybe the root of this problem is your childhood, let's say. And that gives you a better understanding. Okay, I now know that this has led me to react in this way, or this has made me develop a certain mechanism, or a certain way of coping and processing that isn't the way that I should be. And now I take this to God, and I pray about it. And then I discover, okay, this is first a problem within my heart, that it could be, I don't know, let's say pride that has harbored in my heart, or let's say anger that has been harbored in my heart because of this. And so when you combine these things and you present them before God and you surrender them, then he is able to help you with that healing. Because that's the one thing I learned is, I don't know about you, but me, not strong enough to do it on my own. I really can't. I don't have the motivation. I don't have the actual mental, emotional strength to do it. Because I think when we try to solve our own problems by ourselves, it's really easy to keep stumbling and keep going back. It's like when you do it by yourself, you take one step forward and two steps back. It is very difficult. When you do it with God, it is the opposite. Not I'm saying that you're never going to stumble, because we're human. That's kind of what happens, right? And even Jesus said, in this life, bones will still break, hearts will still break. It'll still be difficult, even on your walk with Christ. But he makes it so much easier. You know when he says, I'll put up the actual passage for you, because I don't remember where it comes from. But when he says, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, because my yoke is light and easy. When we try to handle things by ourselves, and the pain that often we carry around and that the world causes us, it is very, very difficult to just depend on your own understanding and to just depend on how you're feeling and what these things are. When you leave it at the feet of Christ, when you surrender these things, it's almost like he lifts that burden off of you. He helps you to carry it. Sometimes we don't always get the understanding, because sometimes we still don't understand why it is that certain things have happened to us. But one thing I know is that the Lord gives you peace in that situation. He gives you stillness within yourself, where you can say, okay, I want to take this step with God. I want to be able to solve this, because I know that there's so many things that I am not able to do, because I have so many unresolved things within me, because there's so many things that I still need to heal, and there's so many things that I need to figure out before, whatever. It's very difficult to have any relationship with yourself, with God, with other people, if you still have all of these pains and all of these burdens that you're carrying around. And so just for that reason, I think that healing is such an important process in all of our lives, but especially when you're going through this weird adulting period, when you're going through this weird figuring out what it is that you want from your life. That is the first step, because how can you figure out, certain things about yourself? How can you create strong bonds and relationships if you have all of these unresolved issues inside of you? Okay, because it is such a broad topic, I want to narrow in on one specific area, which is something that I think we all have an issue. Well, not all. I'm not going to say all, but I think, me personally, I've had this problem, and I've come across a lot of people who have carried this burden, which is the weight of unforgiveness. And that alone is such a terrible thing to have to carry around, because carrying around unforgiveness, and especially from the pain maybe of our past, or of things that have happened to us, it's like poison. It eats away at you, in a way that I don't think a lot of us really understand or realize. We walk around with so much resentment and so much anger, and we think that we've forgiven when you kind of say it in like a petty way, and you're like, well, it's fine, I didn't need them anyway, or I don't really care about anymore, I'm over it. And we deal with it in a really petty way, which is something that the world has taught us to do, where I'm just going to be angry at you for the rest of my life, and I don't really care, because this is a you thing. But really, if you carry around all these ill feelings, in your heart, this eats away at you. It's literally like a poison. It's not gonna hurt the other person, most likely. I mean, sometimes it does if this is somebody, very close to you and they want to figure this out. But a lot of the times, this is something that eats away at you. It's a poison inside you. And again, like I said, in order to establish any sort of relationship with anyone, with yourself, with other people, with God, these are the things that we really need to work out. The way I almost think about it is, imagine like a ball of yarn. Like, the little ones that like we see at the store, like the ones that like cats play with. Imagine just like a ball of yarn. And we hold this. It's very tight and difficult to carry. And then God slowly starts to take all these strings and kind of literally go like this and pull them out to where they're not tangled anymore, and it's not hard to carry. Because imagine how much more difficult it is to carry this huge ball that is tangled and knotted, and how much more heavy it is than loose strings that you can, easily pluck and lay down. Think about it like that, where when you give it to God, he slowly starts to unwind everything and untangle everything for you. And when it comes to unforgiveness, I always think of John 10:10. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'll put it up. Where it says, "The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy." And that's exactly what it is when he plants all these little things in you, where unforgiveness, anger, resentment, deep sorrow, and self-hatred even, these things kill you and destroy you from the inside. They are completely picking apart your spirit and your heart within you. And that's the thing that God doesn't want, especially because you're his children. We are all his children, and he loves us so dearly. Imagine you watching somebody that you love so much, and they're almost being eaten away by this thing that they are not letting go of on purpose. They know that this thing is hurting them. They're holding on to it, and you're watching them, in pain, and you're telling them, please let go so that I can help you. Let go so that it doesn't continue to hurt you and fester inside. That's how God feels when we bring him these kind of things. He's saying, let go so that I can take it and I can heal you. Because the more that we try to hold on to it and think that by holding on that we're going to fix it, that we know the exact solution, we don't. And I think by having that kind of heart posture and having the I can do everything by myself, you're making it worse. Especially, you're making it worse for yourself, and you're making it worse for everybody else around you. By letting it go and saying, you know what, I have no idea what the solution is. I don't know what to do with this. God can take control of those things. And even when you take that first step to go to therapy, and you acknowledge that there's something, I think the therapist will always tell you, the fact that you've acknowledged that you need to be here, or that you feel that there's something in you that you want to work out, that's already the first step. And you should already be, happy that you've been able to even do that. Even if, you can't speak about it right away, because I will tell you right now, it will take so much time. It will often take a lot more time than maybe we're willing to admit or willing to put in. But if you just, let's not think about whatever it is in the future. Let's not think about, okay, it's going to take me this long and I have to do this and this. Let's just take it as, I'm going to take the first step. I'm going to acknowledge that there's something in me. Maybe I don't really know what it is, but it's hurting me. And here's what I think I'm going to do about it. But mostly, I'm going to let God do what he needs to do. This is why I think a big part of it is doing it by faith. just the fact that you can't do it by yourself is already a big thing. But we need, most importantly, out of all things, we need to do it by faith. We need to believe that first, God's got it. He is with us. He loves us. He wants to help us heal. And believe that he can do it. I think that's the most important thing, where a lot of the times when we read the Gospels and we see that Jesus has healed somebody, he says, your faith has healed you. Go in peace, sin no more. And that part is so important, because he's not saying, oh, by doing this and this, that's what healed you. Or he doesn't, say, oh, he says, your faith has healed you. He does it with the woman who was bleeding for 12 years. He does it with the blind man who was a beggar, and he came up to him asking to restore his sight. And he said, your faith in me is what has healed you. And so the fact that it can be difficult, I think a lot of the times when we do carry these things around with us, it can be difficult to say, oh, yeah, absolutely, God will heal me. Because even though we know these things, even though maybe we've seen it or we've experienced it in our own lives, I think when we carry around things such as unforgiveness that has hurt us so much in our hearts, where it has hardened our hearts to the point where, yeah, I know that God can heal me, but will he? I mean, I've been like this for so long. Will it actually ever change? And so, first of all, I understand this is not an uncommon thought. I think this is a thought that everybody has. But that's the first step, is growing your faith. It doesn't have to be a massive faith. Remember, the size of a mustard seed is enough. When you have a deep-rooted faith and an open heart, it is enough. But knowing, okay, I have no idea how it's going to happen, but I truly believe that the God who created me and who loves me will restore me. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't know why certain things have happened in my life, but I know in my heart that when I lay it down, he will take control, and he will heal me, and he will restore me. Because I've said this so many times, trust and believe that when you pray, when you repent for certain things, when you give God your heart, he will restore you. He will hold your hand through it, and he will be there. I think that's the first thing, and probably one of the most important things, is to believe it in your heart, to have faith that, okay, he will do it. I have no idea how, I have no idea when, where, why. The only thing that I know for certain is my faith in God, is my faith in the one who can restore anything and everything. So, to circle back, forgiveness is such an important part of your path, because it is the first step to, I guess, the rest of the journey, which we've already established is quite nonlinear. But I think there's a lot of things. First, when we pray, there must be things that we can identify of pains that we carry. Sometimes we don't even realize. Sometimes we carry certain resentment or things toward other people or toward yourself, and until you pray and you ask the Spirit for discernment, I don't think sometimes we actually realize, oh, I've been angry about this and this, and I didn't even fully know it. It was part of, like, it was unconscious. And so I think identifying or asking God, what are, the beliefs that I hold within me? What are the chains that I've been carrying around that maybe I don't know? And sometimes, and again, this is why therapy is also important, it can be generational. It can be maybe things that your parents didn't deal with, so now you have to deal with it. And that goes on, and maybe their parents didn't deal with it, and then they didn't. And then if you don't, It's almost like a cycle that we have to decide to break and let go of. Because if we keep carrying around these chains and we keep carrying them around with us, we're never actually going to be able to move past these things. When it comes to prayer, it can be really difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Saying these things, especially when it comes to things of your past or things that really hurt deep down, it can be really difficult. And that's why I've said this before. Pray angry. Pray when you're tired. Pray when you're sad. When literally, if all you have is tears and you're just sitting down crying and holding that quiet space with God, he'll take it. He'll take all of those feelings that you don't know how to process and you don't know how to deal with, and he will give you, first of all, he will give you that peace, but second of all, he will help you through his spirit to process all of these things and understand, okay, why is it that this thing hurt so much? Or why is it that A, B, C, whatever it is? Because I think obviously we're all so different, and that process can look so different to everybody. I think in that quiet space is when we can actually almost let our guard down. Like, let go of those things where you're like, oh, I can do it by myself, or I don't need to do A, B, and C because I'm strong enough. It's okay. You don't have to be strong enough in the presence of God. You're allowed to fall to pieces. You're allowed to hurt and feel disappointed and upset. And even a lot of the times, this is something that comes up. God, why did you let that happen? Why? And asking the question why is not a bad thing at all. I think a lot of the times God encourages us to ask. Not because he's going to give you the answer. Because a lot of the times, let's be so for real, he doesn't. But you're allowed to feel upset and disappointed and angry about why certain things happened the way that they did. But what isn't healthy is for you to hold on to that why and that resentment. Because, okay, maybe God doesn't actually, always give us the answer why. And a lot of the times, maybe the things that happened to you that were painful and hurt you weren't within his will for your life. Yes, it's true. But now that you have the opportunity to sit down with him and talk about these things, don't hold such a tight grip onto it, even if it's deep sorrow or anger or sadness. In Matthew 6, where Jesus is telling us the Beatitudes, he said, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Even in your deep sorrow and in your deep sadness, allow his spirit to comfort you. Because I think a lot of the times we don't even allow ourselves to be comforted. It's there's a part in Psalm 77. I don't read it if you're in a happy mood, because I promise it will take you out of that. Because it's so filled with sadness. It is so filled with disappointment and anger, where he says, my soul refuses to be comforted. And that is so valid too. I don't think God is upset when we come to him with all our anger and disappointment. He's literally saying, when I remember God, my spirit moans within me. I'm upset. I can't even look up because I'm angry. And as long as you're able to sit in that space and say that, not holding it in for yourself, because first of all, he already knows your thoughts. He already knows what you're thinking, what you're feeling, but not holding that and bottling that inside, because that is what is slowly killing you. And that is what's slowly almost pulling you away from God. Remember, what did I say in the beginning? The enemy comes to what? To steal, kill, and destroy. So what does he want? He wants you to hold that inside. He wants you to keep that inside for yourself, so that you don't have the motivation or the strength to pray and say, God, I'm upset, I'm mad at you. He doesn't want you to say that, because by holding that inside, it is slowly eating at you, and that's what he wants. So I'm going to ask you, are you going to give the enemy what he wants? No. Say it with me. Say no. Say no. Good. Thank you. Thank you. No, we're not. We're not. And if it starts out as you going on your little self-discovery, and that is what leads you to sit down with God, good. Do it. I so encourage you to do that, to be able to sit, because you know what happens when you're able to do that? God will take your heart of stone, basically. Sometimes when we're so angry and we're not even able to speak or cry, that is called a hardened heart. And your heart could be hardened towards a lot of things, but if your heart is hardened toward God, I think that is the point when you're in a lot of trouble. And even that, what does God say? He says, I will take your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And he does. Even the most difficult emotions that we don't know how to process, even, the deep sadness that we feel, which can often turn into, a lot of depression or anxiety, he can take that and transform it into something else. And a little parentheses, by the way, I do believe anxiety and depression are a real thing. Sometimes it can be spiritual. I think sometimes we do have things that have oppressed our spirit and have, deeply hardened our hearts to the point where we feel this deep depression. But I'm not going to put aside actual, clinical depression where there's an imbalance in our brains and in our things. I think, again, this is why these things go hand in hand, because through prayer and through the healing of the Holy Spirit, we're able to discern what it is that is going on within us. So, but anyway, that is a whole very giant topic that we're not ready to tackle. I'm going to put that to the side. But I did really need to make that parentheses, because sometimes I think we can go the opposite, where we completely invalidate our feelings and think that this is solely a spiritual experience, which sometimes it is. Sometimes our spirits are deeply oppressed by all of these things. But sometimes it is different. Sometimes it is, there's a lot of different reasons why we could be feeling this way. And so, again, if you're listening to this and you have been feeling that way, I deeply encourage you to ask for help, especially when it comes to, mental health. This is not something to be light with and play around with. I do deeply encourage you, if you are able, to ask for help. If you can't get a therapist, find somebody that you can deeply trust. And if you don't feel that there's somebody around you who you can deeply trust, God is always there. Jesus is always by your side. And he is always willing to listen and hold your hand through it. So that's my little parentheses. I just wanted to let y'all know. And on that hand, because I don't want this to be so heavy and sad, I have an encouragement for you, which every time I read this, it is, I don't know, something in my heart just makes sense. Ephesians 1:7, where it says, in him, which is Jesus, we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins in accordance with the riches of God's grace. And then obviously it goes on. So we hold on to these things where we think our pain is too deep. We think our past is too much for him to handle. Or even worse, sometimes we think, okay, yes, Jesus forgave my sins and he forgave, and I'm redeemed, but he can't really redeem everything. He can't really redeem my past. I mean, the past is the past, right? No, it is. Sometimes we have such a narrow experience or such a narrow vision of what Jesus' redemption can look like. And let me tell you, it is so much bigger than we actually can understand. It is so much more vast. He is so much bigger than I think we are even able to process. And so all of those things that you think are too big for him to handle, they're not. All of those, the pains of your past, all of those things that may have happened to you or that you've experienced, or maybe even things that you've done and you hold resentment towards yourself because of that, he can redeem you. There is nothing that you could have done that you think is too bad that the Lord's love and grace and mercy cannot redeem and make different and make new. Remember, you are a new creature in Christ. All of these things, they can be wiped away. As long as you are able to lay it down and walk away and say, okay, I know, remember, I have faith that you can do it. There is nothing that he won't help you heal. There's nothing that he can't make new. And remember, in the context of, the Gospels, when Jesus came, a lot of people had this idea that the Messiah was coming to save or free the Jews from the Roman Empire, from their oppressors. They had this idea that the Messiah or the Christ was going to be this warrior, this military leader, that he was going to fight to free them. And that's when Jesus says, no, I haven't come to free you from all these earthly things that you think are your greatest problem. I'm coming to free you from spiritual sin and debt that you have that is taking you away from the Father. It's taking you away from his presence. I'm here so that by my blood you can be redeemed and you don't have to be away from him anymore. And in the same way, when it comes to healing, you don't have to step away. You don't have to be apart anymore. You don't have to hold this unforgiveness in yourself anymore. He can heal you from that. He can take you away from that. So just to wrap up, because again, this is such a broad topic, I don't think we'd actually be able to get into the nitty gritty in just one episode. I think it's probably going to be a series, or there's going to be a lot of things, and I'm probably going to bring more people in to talk about this. But I want to leave you with this one verse, which is, I think, very important and something that we can keep in our hearts and in our minds, is Luke 4:18. Where Jesus says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, recovery of sight for the blind, and set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." So he is telling you right here, and we also see it in Isaiah, that he has come to set us free. And it's not just prisoners of, actual physical barriers. Some of us are prisoners in our own bodies. Some of us are prisoners in our own minds, of things that we believe, of things that we've held on to. And he is telling you he has come to set you free from all of these things if you would just believe, if you would just have faith that he will do it. And remember that we have a personable God, that he's not just up there, watching as things happen to us. He came down to know what it feels like. He didn't just zap himself down. He came down, he was born, first of all. He lived out his life. So he knows exactly what you're feeling. He has felt all of those emotions. He knows what it's like to be disappointed. He knows what it feels like to be angry and distressed, to be sad, to be betrayed by a friend, to watch, people around you be oppressed and upset. He knows what it feels like. He knows what physical pain feels like. He knows what emotional pain feels like. He knows what, pain in our minds feel like. So there is nothing that you can give him that would be too much, and there's nothing that you can give him that he would say, oh no, this is, I don't get this. He understands you. He knows what it is. And I think that is why even the fact that you can open your heart up to him and talk about these things and pray, that alone brings a lot of healing. And it brings a lot of freedom in being able to say, okay, yes, these things happen to me, but I'm going to choose not to hold on to them and not allow these things to hold on to me. So if I could leave you with nothing else, let it be that. And I pray that you do meditate on that and think about how great and how all loving and all powerful our God is. So thank you for being with me and listening, even though clearly I need to give my voice a little rest. But thank you for being here with me. I hope all of you have such a beautiful rest of your week, that you are allowing yourself to say and sit in that stillness and in that comfort with him. So thanks to all of you. I hope you're all doing super well. I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.